And the internet, always a bit like the Wild Wild West, isn't it? Somewhat unregulated, bit of a free-for-all. But you know, there's a new sheriff in town. 4 of them to be precise. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Microsoft, all teaming up to stop violent images and video from being shared online. Which sounds like a good thing, but should it be their job and their choice?
What do you think? Should these tech companies help police the web? Take our poll on Twitter at AJ English and be sure to use the hashtag AJNewsGrid.
Leah Harding, time to bring you in on this one. I feel a bit ignorant that we didn't know anything about her when she was clearly so huge. But as I said in our meeting this morning, it was all over our social media.
It was very hard to even try to ignore her today. You could not ignore this story on social media. It's definitely taking over the Twitter sphere, if you will. And this trends map kind of gives you an idea of what kind of a story we're looking at. Of course, it's an international story, but it is so India specific here. This is such an India heavy story with this hashtag Rest in Peace, Amma, R.I.P. Amma. More than 260,000 tweets coming out, mainly from India so far in the last 24-hour period since she died. Most of these tweets, most of the conversation generated online have been very positive despite her past of corruption allegations. None of that seemed to taint the idea that people wanted to take to social media and mourn and remember her. And something that also stood out to me in doing my research today is the type of crowds that have appeared outside of the Apollo Hospital, where she was first hospitalized on September 22nd and stayed until she died on Monday. This picture taken earlier, this one here from September, just a few days after she was hospitalized. The crowds haven't really changed since that happened outside of the Apollo Hospital. A lot of tributes flowing in over the course of several months. And the Prime Minister of India has also taken to Twitter, posting several tweets, just shy of 10 so far today alone, paying tribute to Jayalalitha here. And this picture I thought stood out quite well. There he is. You can see him right here. There's Prime Minister Modi in this sea of mourners here. He tweeted this one out earlier, just before NewsGrid went to air. But there have also been a lot of complaints about people not being sad enough. This is a very famous actor within India, Kamal Hassan. He, quote, said, "Deep sympathy for those who depend on Jayalalitha." The responses to this tweet are amazing. Many of them are in English. This one I had to translate here for you. Sashi here saying, "What's the point in being well-learned if there's no decency? Shame, I used to be a fan of yours," saying there was not enough sorrow, not enough sadness. And that, of course, is being relayed in a lot of these hashtags, the top emoji being to pray, cry, sob, and there at the bottom, what many Indians could relate to, the broken heart here. If you have more information on this story, something that you think we should know, we would love to hear from you. Be sure to use the hashtag AJNewsGrid. Kamal?
Let's bring in Leah again on this one, because what we didn't discuss there, Leah, was the issue of, I guess, deciding about what's terrorist material and what's not. Even just the use of the word terrorist, we're quite careful about it on the channel. I mean, we're now letting these companies decide, possibly.
Right, and we have the word terror in parentheses on our poll on Twitter that we've been running for most of the day. I can bring it up here for you. We're asking you online, should tech companies help police the web? And Microsoft, Facebook, Twitter, and Google have all said that they are joining together to fight, quote unquote, terrorists. Again, their word from their from their release that they sent out earlier today. But we asked you this, is this something that you think should even be happening at all? And 68% of you said yes. Only 25% of you said no. But it's brought up a very interesting conversation online, like Khorab Dawood here. He's saying, well, who are terrorists? Are Palestinians and Kashmiris terrorists? I'm afraid superpowers will misuse their power. Superpowers, of course, referring to the tech giants, not just countries here, though countries are making their own effort to try and curb what they call, quote unquote, terrorist information that is put up online. This is from the Metropolitan Police out of the UK. They're asking for this STOP campaign to stop terrorist and extremist online presence. Again, their words here, where you can go on their website. I tried to do it. It's a very simple process. You just insert a link and you tell them why it was offensive, and they'll follow up with you and try to take down the content if they deem it to be, quote, terrorist or extremist content. Facebook, also something to note, Facebook's already working with governments around the world to try and curb what they would say is offensive content online. So this new deal between the four tech giants is something different and is something it's an addition onto what is already going on here. This is on Facebook. It's called governmentrequest.facebook.com. You can have a look yourself. You can select a region around the world. They've broken the world up into 3 regions here in the middle, the East and the West. And I wanted to know, I'm from the United States, how many requests do the United States government put into Facebook? 19,000 requests last year. 81% of them were produced some data by Facebook. And now that I live in Qatar, I was curious about that one. Not nearly as impressive here. 1 request last year, and Facebook denied that request. They didn't give them anything. Very interesting. Also on Twitter here we have, this is from the Brookings Institute, monitoring the type of content that ISIL are putting on Twitter alone. And you can see here, I don't have to explain it very much, that there is such an increase, this ending in 2014 here, but regardless, the sharp increase of content that is online is really, really impressive. Definitely something that is difficult to track. The head of Facebook's global policy management, Monica Breckert, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, she said, quote, even if the head of Boko Haram posts pictures of his 2-year-old daughter and kittens, it's still terrorist video. So they're being very strict about this, but are leaving a lot of this up to the viewer, to the consumer, to you at home. What do you think? We would love to hear from you. Be sure to use the hashtag AJNewsGrid to join in on this conversation, or you can write to me directly at Leah Harding, AJE.